Our meeting to order and use a little thing on my desk to make the sound. So there we go. I'd like to welcome all of you who are tuning into our meeting tonight through Zoom or through the broadcast that you'll watch on our website. As I call the meeting to order, I want to make note of that this is our first public meeting that we are doing on Zoom. And so please bear with us as we try this for the first time. With that, I'd like to entertain a motion to approve our minutes for February.
I'll move to approve.
Second.
And I think most everyone understands that the reason that we are now meeting in June and our last meeting was in February was because of COVID-19 and all the impacts that it has had here in Kitsap County and throughout our country. And so that is the reason for the delay between our meetings. Mike, would you mute yourself, please? So with those minutes being the motion to approve and seconded, do we have any discussion? Okay, hearing none, all those in favor of approving the minutes for February, say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, say nay. All right, our minutes have been approved. I'd like to, at this point, turn it over to our Executive Director, Mike Walton, and allow him. Mike, you are on mute, just to let you know. So unmute yourself, please. And if you can take down those minutes. I'd like to turn it over for our agenda number 3A. With two of our esteemed directors leaving.
Yeah, as you mentioned, we are losing two of our most esteemed and experienced directors, Bill Mahan and Rick Smith. They have been, Bill has been with us for 4 years, but Rick takes the cake. He has been with us since the very inception of the Public Facilities District and has been with us for 20 years. I thought I'd been here a long time. I've been here 12 years, but Rick predates that by almost a decade. Now, one of the things that I wanted to share with them and with you is let's see here, if I can do that. A certificate of recognition that acknowledges that Bill Mahan has been recognized for 4 years of service as a director on the Kitsap Public Facilities District Board of Directors. Bill also served 2 years as the vice chair of the board. And that's a certificate that I will sign. Wouldn't take my digital signature for whatever reason. It's not up to date. But anyway, that will be signed and presented to Bill at the first physical opportunity. The other thing that will be coming is something I couldn't get done by this time because there's not enough companies open that are doing engraving to also give them a not a certificate but a physical memo of recognition that I'll have produced and given to them at the appropriate time. So thank you, Bill. We recognize the contribution that you've made, and we want to express our appreciation for that. You can clap, that's okay.
Yeah.
And sorry, Walt, what?
I've muted Mike again. While we allow him to try and help another one of our board members to join our meeting, I wanted to say what I said at the beginning of the meeting of how much I appreciate both Bill and Rick and their service to our board. Bill's service to our county is, is extraordinary. His work in the issue of economic development for our county and for our region is extraordinary. And so to have someone, to have him on this board has been fantastic. And then the same to say of Rick, to have someone with his qualifications who is as dedicated as he has been for over two decades to see the Kitsap Public Facilities District, succeed. We are so grateful for that kind of dedication from you, Rick. So thank you both very much.
So this is a certificate of special recognition. Am I still muted?
Nope, you're live.
Okay. Rick has been recognized for 20 years of service as a director on the Kitsap Public Facilities District Board of Directors. His leadership in founding the KPFD made this organization a significant contributor to the benefit of the residents of Kitsap County. So this certificate of special recognition for Rick, and he will also receive not just a piece of paper, but a nice little memory recognition piece. And again,
thank you.
we do a standing ovation, but it's a little difficult under the circumstances. As you may have heard, I heard from Walt, and he is still having difficulty in getting on, even with his iPad, where he was connected before, where he could see and hear all of us, but we couldn't see him. But he's going to keep trying. Pat, I don't know. As far as I knew, he was all set to go, and he was on the last test, but I don't know what may be holding him up tonight. That's all I have on this topic.
Mike, should we have Walt dial in? He's using a phone.
Yeah.
It's a great idea, Tom.
If you're talking, Bill, you're muted.
Okay. Am I back on?
Yes.
All right. I just wanted to say how much I appreciated being on board and being associated with all of you. I think you're all very wonderful community stewards, and you've done a great job. And if you'll look behind me, you'll see my wall where I'm going to put my new plaque. I'm just going to miss all of you, and I'm going to play more golf. So thank you again.
All right.
Are you trying to tell us to make the plaque small? It does not look like there is a lot of room.
Oh, I got room for as big a plaque as you can make.
All right. If you have dimensions that you would like, please, forward them on.
I will.
All right, we have Brian. Excellent. So, Mike, would you also cover item 3B? Is there anything more to it than naming the 2 new directors that will join us in July?
Not really. It's just an acknowledgement that I have been in touch with the two new directors designate. At this very same hour, they are getting appointed by the Board of Commissioners. I had originally offered to say something, but then I realized trying to manage participation in 2 Zoom meetings was beyond my ability at this point. So they're going ahead without me. But Rick is being replaced by yet another attorney, Phil Havers, and he has an office here in Silverdale. I have spoken to him, although I've not met him in person yet. Let's see. We have several attendees here now. Phil is present. I'm going to allow him to talk. So,
Thanks, Mike. I just want to say thank you. I've been watching you. I don't think you can see me, so I guess I can do whatever I want on this end, but just want to say thank you. I'm looking forward to working with you and Rick. You and I have talked in the past on other things, so it's an honor to be replacing you on the board, and I hope to continue your legacy.
Well, I'm sure you will.
Thank you.
and thank you, Phil, for making the effort to at least appear and listen, and we appreciate your future participation. So I'm going to mute you now, and I'm going to unmute John Morrissey, who is the other replacement for Bill in Port Orchard. John, if you want to say a few words to the board.
Thanks, Mike. I'm just extremely happy to be privileged enough to help serve with this group here and get to know them better, and ready to get rocking and rolling. Thank you, Mike.
All right. Thank you, John, for making the effort to appear and listen to us and find out who we are and what we're doing.
All right, let's move on to item number 4A for our financial reports and look at our monthly reports. Obviously, we're in an unprecedented moment financially, and I just don't think there are ways to predict what will continue to happen with our economy. The good news is that we have a debt service of only $70,000, and we bring in much more than that in sales tax revenue, and so it is something that hopefully will not impact us because of the amount of sales tax revenue that we now receive and the debt that we continue to pay off with our bonds. With that, Mike, I'd like to hand it over to you and have you say anything that you would like to as well. And you are muted.
Am I unmuted now?
You're good.
Oh, I'm good. Okay. As you can see from the tax revenue summary sheet, the last item under FY 2020 is the May receipts, which is down 16% below last year. However, it's only down to the level of around 2017 receipts. So this is not painful at this point at all. And there is another sheet. Let's see here. Okay, how do I share that one? There we go. And this is too far. Okay. This is the same sheet on which I have estimated. There is nothing other than just what I think may happen. It's a scenario. If the receipts go down further to around 20% below last year for the next couple of months, as we feel the effects from the 2 full months that we were shut down. And then for the next 2 months, perhaps 10% less. And then for the rest of the year, maybe 5% less. Now, those numbers could be worse. I don't know if they'll be better, but that was just one scenario. And if it followed that kind of a path, our receipts would be down to around $1.6 million plus instead of almost $1.8 million. But that still would be only down around 7% over last year. So the coronavirus impact is going to be significant, but it may not be as bad as we think it's going to be. At least even in this condition, we need to get down to where our receipts are where they were back in 2008 and 2009 and 2010, 2011, where our receipts were around $1 million instead of $1.6 million or $1.7 million, in which case we would have enough for debt service, for expenses, and minimal impact even on the cash reserves that we have. So I think we're in good shape, but this is just some numbers which hopefully will make you feel like we're in solid financial shape and we're not likely to start going down the tubes or not paying debt service. The summary for the month, debt service at $70,000 off the 126 received. Oops, I didn't put the expenses in, but the expenses were around $16,000. So we would still have put around $40,000 net to cash, even down 16% from last year.
Are there any questions by the board members regarding our financials? All right, let's continue. Let's continue on then to our blanket voucher. This is our regular monthly blanket voucher, and can I have a motion to approve this?
I move we approve the blanket voucher.
Second.
And all of you have a copy of that voucher so you can see what's on it. In that case, for all those who are, vote to approve the voucher, say aye.
Aye.
And any opposed, say nay. A voucher is approved. Same thing with the director stipends. Yes, Mike?
Yeah, the voucher is up on your screen to see this point, little over $3,000. No
Thank you.
Exceptional expenses.
Thank you. Let's move on to the director stipends. Can I have a motion to approve the director stipends?
I'll move.
And a second?
I'll second it.
All right. Any discussion, any questions?
And
All right.
who was the second?
It was Tom.
Tom was.
Okay, thank you, Tom.
Then all those in favor to approve the director's stipend, say aye.
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 Any opposed, say nay. All right, they have been approved. Now on to agenda number 5, our ongoing business. Our Department of Commerce feasibility study status. Mike, would you speak to this?
Yeah, there had been several confirmations or conversations. There had been several emails exchanged. We started off with a preliminary feasibility study, and then each one of the projects as they came up for construction would have their own separate feasibility study that would all tie together eventually. With the effects of coronavirus and other discussions within the Department of Commerce, they began to back off from that and eventually retreated back to what was written in the RCWs, which basically said when you are ready to do construction, you need to request a feasibility study. So we are, even though we're doing a minor construction project in the Heritage Park area, it's less than $1 million. We're not selling bonds for it. And again, they've agreed that that doesn't trigger a full-scale feasibility study. So we are probably 1.5 to 2 years away from requiring to work again with the Department of Commerce on a feasibility study. So that's a good thing. We don't have to worry about it now. We don't have to go through the scrutiny. We've got enough reserves to be able to fund what our commitments are so far to both Paulsbo, Heritage Park, and the first phase of Port Orchard. So it took
Mike,
a few months to sort that out, but it's a good result.
Mike, a question for you is, you may have said it, I didn't understand you to say it, but my understanding from our previous discussion was that we would not have to go to the Department of Commerce to go through the approval process unless we were to bond, until we were ready to bond in regards to new construction, rather
Bond
than
or
just
significant other finance, yes.
Okay, all right, very good.
So we don't need anything from Commerce for the Heritage Park?
No,
Nothing at all, okay.
nope.
Any other questions? All right, let's move on to 5B, construction consultant approval process. Again, Mike, will you speak to this?
Yeah, the up on your screen is the selection process. It's fairly simple. I mean, we have gone through the RFQ. We have submitted people that are competing for it, 4 of them. One is a large supplier or large provider over in Seattle. The other 3 are local. What I'm suggesting is we have a selection committee. Myself, I spoke to Erin and she has agreed. Darren has selected or suggested Tom if he was willing to participate in that process. Are you interested, Tom?
Happy to.
Okay, excellent. So we'll do our own meeting. We'll use a series of questions. I've been through 2 of these with both Paulsbo and Port Orchard, so we should be able to put together a series of questions similar to what they've used in the selection of their consultant. We'll have a point system based on the importance of the items in the job description, and we'll select out of the 4 candidates the top 2, and then we'll have those 2 candidates come back before the full board for presentations and their own questions and issues before we make the selection. And if everyone agrees with this process, then we'll go ahead.
Any questions regarding our construction consultant?
So
When do you
Mike,
plan to kick it off?
Next month, I'll get together with you and Aaron on a Zoom meeting, and we'll talk about the questions that had been presented by both Paulsbo and Port Orchard, and we'll take a look at those and see if they apply, or if they don't, if they can be modified for our purposes. And then we'll come up with the point values. In the meantime, I'll notify the applicants that we're going to embark on this process and give them 10 days to 2 weeks to put together their presentation to us as a committee and to make their case for us to review.
so Mike,
this will, yeah.
will you get those questions out to us before we get together in July so we have a chance to review them?
Sure will.
Thank you.
So we'll
Thank you.
probably meet in the first part of the first week in July, and let me know if you're going to have prolonged absence in or around the 4th of July, so that if there's any impact from that, we can slide it another week if we need to. And the other thing is I will send information out to the applicants, let them know about the process and what the timing is. I would suspect that we'd have our interview session where they present and we question probably in the latter half of July.
Thank you to the 3 of you for working on this. Let's move on to 5C, our Executive Director Activity Report, and 5D, the Regional Facility Reports, which I would just direct each of you to read on your own to catch up on those. Let's move now to item number 6, our new business and our legal services contract. Mike, will you speak to this?
Okay, we've had a legal services contract with Brian and his company. We started when it was Lawler and you're muted. Brian, you're muted.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Yeah, so the original contract was probably 2002 or something with Lawler and Burroughs, and Blair Burroughs, my retired.
That's right. I couldn't remember Blair's last name.
And I was his backup. I did things like the ILAs. He did like the governance things, like the bylaws and resolutions. Blair retired in 2008. I closed my firm then. I went to another firm, Socius Law Group. I was there for 5 years. We continued to do the work, and I left Socius 6 years ago and asked to join the firm I'm in now as an of counsel status. So I've been there for. So we've used the same form since every cycle we find a little thing to tweak here or there. So I think we tweaked something on the payment process, just because it, I went 3 or 4 months without getting paid, and that was technically in breach of the contract, and nobody wants that. So I told Mike, just make it flexible, pay when you can, sort of thing. And then I have an assistant, Denise Hamill, who's my backup. She rarely does any work. I tend to do all of the PFD work myself, but sometimes I ask her to do. Her rate has not changed in 10 years or so. And so I'm asking that she be bumped up from $250 to my rate of $275, just because that rate is so far below her normal rate.
All right. Any questions, comments from any of the directors? I will start it just by saying, Brian, I think you do a tremendous job for us, and I'm very grateful to have you as our legal counsel. So that would just be my initial comments. Any other comments by anybody?
I haven't had a chance to look at it. Brian, is it like a 1-year contract that automatically renews?
I think it's 1 year, and the board always has the option to renew it for another year. Okay. It's also terminable on will. So the day that Darren wakes up and says, "What the hell is Brian Lawler doing here?" You guys can throw me under the bus in 30 days or something.
Okay.
Not bloody likely.
Yeah, well.
All right. Well, with those comments, I'd like to ask for a motion to do we need a motion to approve this as a board?
Yes.
Okay. Ask for a motion to approve this new client service agreement, legal service contract with Brian and his associate Denise Hamill.
I would like to make the motion that we approve this contract for the two.
All right, Rick.
And a second?
A second.
And I should have done it this way, but is there any other discussion? All right. In that case, all those in favor of this legal services contract, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. All right. Brian, we're happy to have you on again.
And I am so happy to continue the relationship. Thank you.
Yeah, your
All right.
hair is getting grayer right along with ours, so we're aging together.
All right, now on to the Visit Kitsap Peninsula, item number 6B. Again, a new marketing services agreement. Mike, anything you would like to say?
Yeah, I'm going to recommend that we table this until next month. Brian got the legal work done. Patty did not get her detailing of what the services that she was going to provide for us, which is the attachment that's supposed to be at the end of this document. So I'm going to recommend that we table this until next month.
Okay. So done. Then on to 6C, attestation policy review. Brian.
So this is kind of a nerdy thing, but I noticed earlier this year when we're signing ILAs that there's different formats or protocols for signing. The two, one is called attestation, where there's a line below whoever signs for an entity that says attest, and that's somebody witnessing that the board chair or whomever it is has signed. And then there's often another line below that says approved as to form, and then the attorney for the entity signs that. I went back and looked at the history of important documents that the PFD has signed, the ILAs, the major contracts, and so on. And and we've kind of been all over the place over the years with a general trend to move away from all of that level of formality. But I thought I should bring this back to your attention, because if somebody ever looked at the ILAs, you'd realize that Kitsap County is signing different than we are. Paulsville is signing different than we are. And sorry, a dog who just tried to climb up here. So I thought I would A, explain it, and B, get your direction. So attestation is simply the notion that someone other than the board president is signing that they witnessed the board president's signature. It's not legally required on any document we do. It is required for some county documents. It is required for some city documents. It's not required for us. I just put it out there as a best practice thing, because cities and counties use that convention more than just on the things they're required to use, or they tend to just use it very broadly. So if we want to have a little more formality or a little more protocol, we could go to that sort of policy of having someone, and it probably would be Mike or the secretary of the board, but one of the two or both, either one, could sign, which is a form of verification of the president's signature. So that's attestation. Approved as to form, again, I don't find anywhere in any statute that we have to have that line, but I think it's a good practice in local government, because it just ensures that in whatever review process has happened with a major document, the city attorney, the county attorney, the special district attorney has in fact looked at the document. They're not vouching for the substance of it, but they're vouching that the document form is correct and it meets statutory requirements. So I thought I'd just put those ideas out there. And if it's something the board's interested in, I would say, let's put it in the bylaws so it's there forever and nobody forgets about it the way maybe it's been forgotten in the last decade or so.
I'll start off our comment just by saying I think it's a great idea. I like the formalized nature of it. I think it's great to have our legal representative have their name on a document as well for historical sake. For me, as a person who's now signing many of these contracts, I think it's great to have another person witness that and to have their name on it as well. And I think it's really smart to put it in the bylaws rather than the memorandum, like you had said, which, maybe you don't find that when you're looking for how do we handle this, but so that it's there clearly. So those would be my comments. Others, questions for Brian or comments on this new process or formalized process?
Yeah, I agree.
Go ahead, Aaron.
Thanks, Rick. Yeah, no, I agree with both of those. I really like the idea of putting them into our formal permanent documents so that they're right there where we look for them.
Yeah, and I would just add that we've had a history of, with North Kitsap comes to mind, where we had problems with the validity or of a contract that wasn't followed. That kind of thing might help.
That wouldn't have made a difference of whoever signed it in that case. But anyway, I agree with Brian. I have followed typically the form of documents in which I found them in the records. And so if it was a document that I was making a new version of, I would do that with the same kind of signature block or signature arrangement. So this will make it easier for me. This is the way it's done in all of the documents that we approve and sign. If there's a single signer that needs an attestation line on it, and so that will improve the consistency of what my processing is.
So any other comment? So Brian, what we would need to do then is is there action that we would take today, or would this be drawn up as a specific wording that we would add to the bylaws, and then to do that formally.
Yeah, you probably don't need to do a formal motion tonight. If I could get a sense of the board that you would like me to work with Mike and come back at a subsequent meeting with a bylaw amendment for review and approval.
So I've only heard 3 comments to the positive, and as well as Mike for our executive director. Tom or Bill, any concern at all?
I agree. I think it's wise to have that in the bylaws, and there's no question.
Agreed. And
Okay.
it does bring up a point too, that we should probably formalize more of these things within the bylaws. So as roles and members transition in and out, it makes it easier for future action.
I agree with that as well. So there's your general consensus, Brian, to go ahead with this. But I would concur with Tom of, if there are other revisions or memorandums that we've added at different times that also would rise to wanting to get them in a bylaws form where we have everything in one document, more, to what you think is good, please bring those to us as well.
I will.
Yeah, there hasn't been a revision to the bylaws since 2011. So it's probably time to do a good housekeeping and check and see what else might need to be added. I agree.
All right, now on to 6D, revised blanket voucher signature authority. Brian, to you on this one again.
So on this one, during the governor's shutdown and limitations on what could be done and cancellation of meetings and so on, Mike and I started talking about the frustration of getting vouchers approved, and we were going to bring something forward towards that. And then Mike found resolution 01-2006 that actually authorized the chair, the vice chair, or the treasurer to approve vouchers prior to board meetings. So there's something in place now that actually does it. There's dollar limits, and I can address, but I think we have a policy in place. Just didn't realize, and maybe there should be some review of that at some point, whether it's the right amount or not. So that's one item, and then the item that Mike has just put up on the for us all to see, the electronic digital signature policy, is another matter, and that is, should we not adopt a policy that allows for documents to be signed digitally rather than the proverbial wet signature? It's already happening in the state. It happens in commercial real estate. It's starting to happen in government. As of June 11 of this year, a new statute came into play in the state that kind of further elevates the ability to use digital signatures. And if a local government wants to go in that direction, the first thing the local government has to do is draft a policy. And so what Mike now has on the screen is a policy that I just shamelessly copied from the city of Vancouver that did this 30 days ago, and been promoted as perhaps a model. So I put this out there as it's kind of a tool for discussion. If the board wants to go in the direction of using digital signatures, which I think is a no-brainer, and then pick a platform. DocuSign's the most prevalent one in the commercial world, but it doesn't mean it's the only one. And then if this is appealing to the board, same thing. You could give Mike and I a sense of the board that you would like to go digital on signatures, and we could come back with something more formal for review and approval.
Comment or question?
Yeah, I do too. And I also would like to look at the dollar amount of the one you were talking about where they can sign without having all of us before on a meeting so
Yeah.
that we can expedite some of these payments.
And is there also a cap on this? Would we place a cap on electronic signature approval?
We have flexibility to do that. Yeah, we can set limits or not have limits.
Also, in the issue that we just talked about, when we have someone attest to, hey, I watched this person sign this document, how do you do that with electronic?
So Darren, I just, on another board, signed a number of bank documents electronically, and we dealt with a significant loan against our property. And so the bank, as I recall, I electronically gave them my signature, and then wherever I wanted that signature to be applied, I clicked on that line item and my signature was put on that line. It's not an onerous deal, and you still have the control that you need if you were sitting there signing documents.
And Darren, to answer your question, anyone who's authorized to do a digital signature has a discrete digital signature that's theirs and theirs only. So in terms of somebody attesting, sure, they don't actually see you sign it, but they see that you have signed and that the signature or the image is your precise digital signature.
Thank you.
And some of you have replied with answers to my request to have you fill out the form for digital signatures for the county to satisfy their requirements for processing of documents with digital signatures. However, some of you have just used a printed thing rather than a script or some kind of a unique signature. So if you may want to change that, you can take a look at that and decide to use a different, more unique signature. But all 7 of you have submitted a form that I gave you, and I have passed those along to the auditor for their review and approval to use as a digital signature on any documents that we submit to them.
All right. Is there any concern with this? Otherwise, Brian, I think that is your consensus that we should move forward with this.
Good.
Okay.
Okay,
now on to 6E, new video meeting policy. When our documents came out for the board meeting, I could not find this one. So I apologize, but Brian, would you speak to it? And other directors, were you able to see the printout on this?
No.
Oh,
So maybe this is one. Why don't you give us the gist of it, and
Sure.
we can respond, back to you.
I didn't find one either. I think you were going to talk about it, but if you had sent me a draft to consider, I don't know that I saw it either.
So let me just dive in there. The Open Public Meeting Act says that the board is supposed to meet in person. And, for the 20 years that's been in effect, in person has generally meant like, person to person type meetings. With Governor Inslee's order starting back in February, he had the power to waive certain portions of the Open Public Meetings Act, and the state attorney general weighed in and they said, well, sometimes you can't really have an in-person meeting, but you can have the equivalent of it, which would be an electronic meeting like we're having now. So for the last 3 or 4 months, an actual person-to-person meeting has been forbidden by the governor's orders, and these Zoom meetings or virtual meetings have been encouraged. People are finding these to be very efficient. And what's happening now is I think there's some daylight in what the term in person means, that going forward, even when we're out of Inslee's orders, which we're still under now through the end of the month, but there's a desire to move forward and have more meetings electronically. But to do that, you have to set up a policy that in theory conforms to the requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act. So the discussion we had at executive board was, I think that people like these meetings because they're efficient, and there's a way to set them up so the public still has their right to participate. So if there's another sense of the board on that, Mike and I can start working on a policy, and probably would be a bylaw to change to allow for electronic meetings, virtual meetings, under guidelines that will meet the standards of the Open Public Meetings Act.
Comment, questions by the board?
Yeah, I think it should go in the bylaws too. I think this is a format of meetings that's here to stay.
Yeah, I do. Yeah.
Is there also boilerplate language that you can use to draft at least the first document that we can look at?
There's no boilerplate yet. I'm watching for it. Believe me, I would rather shamelessly copy someone else's really good work product than start from scratch myself. So I'm watching the websites where I know this stuff pops up.
All right. Well, thank you, Brian. I think again you have a consensus here of like this is the direction we would like to move in. So now we are at item number 7, public comment on our agenda. And the way we are going to try and do this to make sure that we can have public comment is, if you would like to speak and you're an attendee tonight, if you would click the raise your hand button, Mike will be able to give you speaking privileges on the webinar and allow you to make public comment. We will certainly keep it to 3 minutes as we typically do. But if there's any comment that you would like to make, please show that your hand is raised and we will get you on.
We apparently don't have a hand up or a raised hand in the webinar. At least
I
not
do
that
see
I've
one
seen.
now. I do see one now by Hank Anderson. Hank's a familiar face for
Yes,
us at
you're
our
right.
public
I have-
facility district meetings. And so, Hank, thanks for helping us test out this technology and for being present tonight.
Okay. I have clicked on the allow to talk button.
And Hank, you are muted on the screen that I see. Okay, it looks like we're good.
He unmuted for a moment and then he muted again.
Yeah. There we go. Uh-oh.
No, that should be good.
Yep. He's now a panelist, and so he can make his comment.
Yeah, you changed the status in mid-sentence. Thank you for putting this on Zoom. It works amazingly well. I just wondered if you can predict with much certainty whether the next meeting is most likely to be Zoom, or if you think you'll actually have a meeting of all hands together.
Hank, I'll speak to this one and just say, as we've learned with COVID-19, making predictions a month in advance, don't have a lot of weight. So I think, would it be likely at this point that we would be on Zoom? Possibly. As a county, we're looking at phase 3. That would require us to make sure that we're still 50 people or less by that time. So, yeah. So it's just up in the air until we can, get closer to that date.
One reason I ask is that given my age, I'm reluctant to go to anything, even if we're in phase 3 soon, as the county has requested. And I don't recall your past practice. Was BCAT live, or was BCAT just taped for viewing later?
It was taped for viewing later, Hank.
Okay, so there would be no live at the same time as your meeting if you meet face to face.
Well, it's a new circumstance for BCAT as well. It may cost us more to have them to broadcast it live rather than just record it, process it, and give it back to us so that we can put it on our YouTube channel. But I can discuss that with BCAT and see if it's an extra charge to do it, but that we could do it live. I'll check that out, Hank.
And then similarly, you would announce that on the website?
Yes.
Okay, great. One other question I can't help but ask. What's the status between you all and the Circuit of the Northwest?
We have not heard a presentation, although the Board of Commissioners from the port have said that they want to come before us and clarify some of the questions that were raised when they made their last presentation about doing the EVOC Center. And it was noted that most, if not all, EVOC centers are not open to the public, so that if that was the center of what they were planning to do, that it may not qualify. So they've researched that and they want to come back and talk to us again, but that hasn't been scheduled yet.
Okay, so it's still in the works. Amazing.
Well, one of the attendees at our meeting today is Joel Cohen, who is the fella behind the construction plans for the racetrack. So I'm sure that we're likely to hear from Joel as well.
Hank, thank you for your comment, and I made note that that Zoom might even be a preferable option, even if we were allowed to, for the sake of people being able to attend who might have concerns with health.
Quite possibly so. Thank you all very much.
You're welcome, Hank. And
any other public
being
comments?
with us through thick and thin. Okay.
Okay. With that, then I am ready to adjourn the meeting. But I
don't see any other questions or hands raised.
But I thought before doing so to give Bill or Rick any final word, Bill, that you would like to give to us, any charge, any words of wisdom?
Well, you guys got a lot of work to do, and I wish you well in the future, and I hope the impact of the public facility district is going to make a big difference in Kitsap County. And thank you again.
Thank you, Bill. And Rick, any final comment that you would like to make?
Well, thank you for that, Eric. Yes, you guys have some really good projects and some really good ideas about financing them, contributing to them. Way better than what we did in the short period of time that we had initially to pick out projects. As you probably most of you know, South Kitsap and Bainbridge Island and North Kitsap at the very last minute under the deadline. We had a deadline. Our projects had to be approved under the first statute that we were operating under by a certain day. I don't remember the exact one, but we did manage to get North Kitsap in, but only Bremerton, Central Kitsap, and North Kitsap had projects, and now you have projects for the entire county. And so good luck with that. It's wonderful.
Thank you, Rick. So again, thank you to Bill, thank you to Rick, and with that, our meeting is adjourned. All right,
Yes.
good night, everybody.
Take care, everybody. Be safe.
All right, everybody, thank you very much for making the effort and getting on board with our first Zoom meeting. And we'll probably be doing this again next month. And we'll be sorry that Bill and Rick won't be with us, but we'll have 2 more newbies that we can indoctrinate, educate, and other Kates that we might do to them.
Night, everybody.
Good night,
Night.
Bill. Good night, Rick. Good night, Tom. Good night, Mike Boy.